It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. Today, you, the KABC listening audience, are going to act as the jury. As I bring you a case, you're going to have to tell me if you think there is a case here or this is nonsense. What are we talking about? We're talking about the latest case brought on by California's Attorney General, Rob Bonta.
In Topanga.
Who has obviously never spent any time on Topanga Canyon.
In Topanga.
Rob Bonta is suing Exxon Mobil, the manufacturer of a lot of the products that become plastic, that is in everything in everyday life. He is suing Exxon Mobil to hold them accountable because Rob Bonta says that Exxon Mobil has been lying for many, many years about just how recyclable their plastic is. Let's hear what Rob Bonta has to say. Let's hear what Rob Bonta had to say when he was asked about this on CNBC, and we'll have you, the audience, the jury, decide if there's an actual case here or if this is a waste of everybody's time. At 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Here was Mr. Cliche himself, Attorney General Rob Bonta, yesterday on a Zoom press conference.
This morning, we filed a lawsuit with 6 causes of action against Exxon Mobil for conducting a decades-long campaign of deception to convince the public that recycling makes plastic, including single-use plastic, sustainable. Let me be clear, it does not.
Recycling is pointless. That's the lesson we learned today, at least for plastic. The only thing I recycle in great quantities is glass because I drink a lot of wine.
This lawsuit is the first of its kind to hold Exxon Mobil accountable for the immense harm its decades of misleading claims have caused our environment and the people of California. Our 147-page complaint makes it clear that Exxon Mobil promoted and vastly increased its production of single-use plastic, while doling out false promises that its plastics are sustainable and recyclable, and false promises that recycling would take care of ensuing plastic waste and help ExxonMobil use less fossil fuel to make new plastic.
I mean, I was a kid of the 90s. I remember Captain Planet. We were going to recycle and save the planet. Recycle, refresh. It was like that PSA with the dinosaur. I remember that. Apparently, recycling's a bunch of crap.
A solution it knew wasn't technically or economically viable, while at the same time knowing the increasing production and the waste it created would only worsen pollution and lead to the severe harms we see today. The company has propped up sham solutions, manipulated the public, and lied to consumers. It's time ExxonMobil pays the price for its deceit. It's time ExxonMobil is held accountable.
Accountability, everybody. Rob Bonta says ExxonMobil, the largest manufacturer of products that become plastic, has been lying to all of us that their products are actually recyclable, even the advanced recycling. Rob Bonta says very little of that material actually gets recycled, and ExxonMobil was telling you the whole time that it was fine for the environment because you could recycle it. And Rob Bonta wants damages. Rob Bonta wants money. Rob Bonta wants ExxonMobil to pay to clean the planet. My question to you at 800-222-KABC is this: 1-800-222-5222. Do you think Rob Bonta has a case, or is this nonsense? Let's continue with the Attorney General.
Plastic contaminates our drinking water, strangles our wildlife, and blights our landscapes. Microplastics have been found in our lungs, maternal and placental tissue, breast milk, and blood. Plastic manufacturing plants and materials recovery facilities generate hundreds of millions of tons of toxic air pollution, often in or near marginalized communities.
They're killing us.
While many of us hear ExxonMobil and think of the gas pump, The company is the world's largest producer of polymers, basically the building blocks of plastic that become single-use plastic waste, and the largest refiner and marketer of petroleum products in the US. It turns its fossil fuel into tiny plastic pellets that other companies mold into the single-use plastic we all know and use.
How dare they make a product that everybody uses?
Bottles, utensils, food containers, the list goes on.
Although, you know what's funny? If you ever spend any time on Hawaii, because you can't really recycle there, because where are you going to do? Put everything on a boat and go somewhere else? Most products, whether it be utensils, whether it be straws, everything is made of biodegradable products and is doable. I think at some point we should lean into that.
In the past decade, as we've been drowning in plastic waste, Exxon Mobil has increased its production capacity by roughly 80%. They are bullish on the plastics market.
They think you love your plastic.
Our coastline, oceans, rivers, and bays are swimming with plastic pollution that costs California municipalities, Californian taxpayers, over $1 billion each year.
Any of that have to do with littering or just the landfill? It ends up going into the ocean. How does it get to the ocean? I know it does, but somebody put it there, right?
While Californians are stuck to foot that bill, just last year, in 1 year, ExxonMobil raked in $36 billion in profits.
They're making money hand over fist while they're poisoning us. Rob Bonta is suing Exxon Mobil for saying they've been lying about how recyclable plastic is. Do you think Bonta has a case? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Dana in Sun Valley. Dana, hello.
Hi there. I'm just wondering if we're going to get any kind of a reimbursement for all the CRVs we've been paying for all of our water bottles all these years.
That's a good point. 5 cents on every bottle or can. So you buy a 12-pack, that's 60 cents right there. And we're supposed to be able to redeem it if we recycle it. But if all of this was for naught, if it was all for nonsense, what have we been doing?
Exactly. It's a big fat waste, and most people don't necessarily take their recycling back to get their money. They just put it in the blue container, thinking that they're doing well for the planet, while in the meantime they're being robbed of their hard-earned money.
That is a very good point. Thanks for the call, Dana. Appreciate it. You know, it's funny, too. I don't know if you do this, but I don't really think too hard about sorting in my blue bin. You know, I used to be really conscientious about it and make sure that everything is well organized in there. But I stopped doing that because I'm sure this happens in your neighborhood. It happens in mine. Somebody, morning of trash day, comes around in a trash can, in a shopping bag, and they take all of the stuff that they can take to recycling out of there. So they're going to sort it. Good for them. But yeah, I don't take things to recycling. Do you think Rob Bonta has a case? He is suing Exxon Mobil for saying that they have been lying to us about how recyclable plastic is. Plastic bottles, plastic bags, plastic waste. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Doug in Woodland Hills. Doug, hello.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
I'm great.
Great. I've got mixed feelings on this. I think, back in the day when they started all the recycling and we started to get that surcharge of 5 cents every bottle, there had to be some kind of marriage there between those producers of plastic bottles and the government to say we're going to join up and make money on this venture by charging for a recycling fee. But the other thing, too, is that, there should be some accountability on the government side to make sure that these plastics are indeed recyclable. Where was the, impact reports for the recycling centers and the landfills and things like that in case these bottles didn't get, recycled and went into the landfills? Where's the soils reports and those kind of things that would be the responsibility of the government to provide to look into before it even passed? And I'll get off.
That is a fantastic point, Doug. The fact that, we're going to take the manufacturer's word for it when we have our own scientists. We fund a lot of these recycling plants. We know if these things would be recyclable or not. That's a very, very, very good point. Bonta is pretty much saying that they've been playing us for fools, but I mean, yeah, they're going to want to make as much plastic as possible. That's how this works. Yes, was it deceptive? Maybe. Deceptive to the point where they have to pay billions of dollars? I don't know. But shouldn't we have known better? If it wasn't recyclable, did it take us 30 years to figure that part out? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Rob Bonta is suing Exxon Mobil for lying about how recyclable their plastic is. Do you think he has a case? Let's go to Phil and Carson. Phil, hello.
Hey, Randy. So if Exxon's responsible for lying to us, shouldn't he be suing himself, Lyon Newsom, and the California legislature for all the things that they pushed on us, like Measure HHH, how it's going to help the homeless? Weren't we lied to about that? Weren't we lied to about all the land, everything else that they passed that they've lied to about? Oh, how we're securing the borders, how we're making this city, this state, livable for everybody, and the only ones getting rich are the people that are in government? Shouldn't he be suing them? Isn't that a bigger fish to fry?
It's interesting. We might be opening a can of worms here if we start suing on the behalf of false promises based on good intentions.
Because isn't that what they keep on telling us? Oh, we have the best intentions for everybody. We have the best ideas. This is what we've come up with. It's going to cost you a lot of money, and things are going to get better. But yet, I don't know, I'm 70. I haven't seen this get better. Not in the years I've been here. I remember all the governors from way on saying the 10 freeway, we're going to put Caltrans on it to make it a better freeway, to keep traffic flowing. But I haven't seen that. Weren't we lied to by them? Shouldn't they all be sued? Shouldn't all their pensions?
You make a great point, Phil. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Hey, Rob Bonta wants to sue Exxon Mobil because they've been lying to us about just how recyclable their plastic is. It's a fair point. Should we be able to sue the state of California for saying how effective their homeless programs have been? Decent point. Of course, they have qualified immunity. I don't think that Exxon Mobil has that. Vince in Santa Ana. Vince, hello.
Hello, Randy. Great points, as always, to bring up and discuss. So mine are two fundamental concerns. One, are they, by him wanting to sue Exxon, is he basically stating that Exxon devised recycling? One. Two, why is it that this has been going on for so long, and why not other companies as well? So why are they just going only after Exxon? I don't see the angle here. I don't understand that they think that Exxon has the monopoly on recycling, and if they devised the recycling idea, I thought that was just kind of a outcome of what do we do with plastic at one point.
Well, what Bonta is alleging is that Exxon Mobil spent a bunch of money to create these environmental commissions that were actually them saying that recycling is going to save the planet and recycling plastic works. And he says that they knew it didn't and they lied to us anyway.
So he's actually saying that they devised the scheme.
That's what he's saying. But are you telling me that for 30 years we just believed it?
Exactly. Which is the other, that I don't think that dog's going to hunt.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for the call, Vince. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. Rob Bonta is suing Exxon Mobil for lying about how recyclable plastic is. Do you think he has a case? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We'll get to your calls, and we'll get to Rob Bonta in the hot seat on CNBC about this lawsuit next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. California Attorney General Rob Bonta
In Topanga.
is suing Exxon Mobil. He says they've been lying to us for 30 years about how recyclable plastic is, and now he wants them to pay up. Do you think Bonta has a case? Let's go to Ron in Sherman Oaks. Ron, hello.
Hi. This is really deceiving because the California government doesn't really care about the environment or how it affects us. All that is in play is that they've discovered that they need money because they're broke, and Exxon has just posted $36 billion profit, and they want some of that. So this is really all about money, and they have been searching and searching and searching to find something that they can sue Exxon. The same is happening with a lot of other rich companies. So be aware, if your company makes profit, California government wants some of it, and they will find a reason to sue you for it.
Bonta's coming after you next. Ron, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC. Let's go to John in Costa Mesa. John, hello.
Yeah, I agree with what he just said. I think that makes a lot of sense. The other thing is, I probably have it wrong, but the Sarbanes-Oxley thing that came out years ago where they held corporate executives accountable for things that they may not even know about, I think we should have a Sarbanes-Oxley version for government that if a governor or a senator or somebody in a position of power approves something and it goes south, you should be able to find them, drag them back to the town square, skin them alive, and string them up.
I think not to go that far, but we should get rid of qualified immunity for politicians so they literally have to be held accountable for the destruction that they lay on us.
Okay, if we don't go that far, then can we at least put them into town square, tie them to a post, and throw rotten fruit at them?
Oh, we can totally do that. It'll be like the Apollo Theater every night.
Thank you, Randy. Love you.
Thanks so much for the call, John. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Michelle in Santa Clarita. Michelle, hello.
Good afternoon. Well, they're going after the oil company who's just providing the base product. If they're going to do that, why don't they go after the manufacturers of these plastic products that put that lovely little triangle that they all led us to believe anything with a triangle is recyclable? But then when I get my Burtec trash notices, I get the list of things I can put in the recycle bin, and then there's this long list of things that I can't put in the recycle bin that have the triangle on them that are supposed to be recyclable. So why aren't they going after the trash companies to do a better job of recycling the products that are supposedly recyclable, including those plastic trash bags and the rings around our tin can or our aluminum cans, and the plastics that our Costco water is wrapped in, shrink wrapped in? Those all have triangles on them. And we have to put those in the regular trash because our trash company won't accept them for recycling. And they don't.
If California is the king of regulation, Michelle, and California wants to regulate everything, how has it taken this long to make it a consistent standard that if it's got the triangle, that means it's recyclable? No, there's a triangle and there's a little number in there, and you have to know what that number means. And if that number is a certain number, then it could go in the blue bin. Nobody's paying attention to that.
Nobody is, and I see people that put non-recyclable stuff in the blue can, which means that when it goes to the trash company, they pull it out and they put it in the trash to go into the dump. And I actually save up my recyclables and I take them in and I use that money for vacation time. So I get my money back from the state. I'm not going to give away any of my money.
You know what? That's probably real smart. Good for you. Thanks so much for the call, Michelle. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. Rob Bonta
In Topanga.
is suing Exxon Mobil for lying to us about how recyclable plastic is. Do you think he has a case? 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. Like this one from Vince. Rob Bonta is a gold digger. They have promised to recycle back in the 1970s. You know, we can't even recycle styrofoam. He is going after the styrofoam manufacturer next. These guys have to play the blame game. My question is, since we started recycling in the 70s, why did it take so long to figure out that it's not working? 50 years is a lifetime. Thanks for the call, Vince. Rob Bonta is suing Exxon Mobil, saying they've been lying about how recyclable plastic is.
In Topanga.
Rob Bonta took his case to the business experts at CNBC, and it did not go very well.
The state of California filing a lawsuit against Exxon Mobil on Monday, alleging that the oil giant misled the public about the recyclability of its plastic products. Joining us right now is California Attorney General Rob Bonta. And Rob, thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
Explain the basis of the lawsuit.
The lawsuit is basically the state of California suing Exxon Mobil for a decades-long campaign of deception in which they tried to convince the world, including California, that the recycling of plastic products, including single-use plastics, is sustainable.
They lied about how safe plastic was. How dare they?
It is not. It's a lie. That's a deception. Only about 5% of plastic waste in the United States is ever actually recycled. 95% goes to landfill or into the environment, our oceans, rivers, or is incinerated. And the idea behind it was if the public was convinced that their single-use throwaway consumer lifestyle was supported by recycling and that it was environmentally friendly, they would buy more, more, and more. And it would drive
I mean, when you're talking about a single-use plastic like a plastic bottle, I don't think it was the average consumer that really cared. I mean, I think soda tastes better out of a glass bottle myself, but plastic's what was manufactured. I don't know what to tell you, but does Rob Bonta have a case? Let's try the phones again. Let's go to Mike in L.A. Mike, hello.
Hi, great show. He needs to be fired yesterday. That's the answer. We need a new person in his position. Because how can
new
you
Attorney General
same mistake for 30 years and then sue the company because you didn't know what the company was doing? It doesn't make any sense to me. I own a small business. I'd be fired yesterday if I did that same story.
I was duped for 50 years. That's what Bonta's saying. Mike, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Ray in Manhattan Beach. Ray, hello.
Hi. Everything's recyclable. The question is at what cost? And most of it doesn't make financial sense to do it. Rob Bonta, however, is the biggest liar in the world. Why should we trust him? He puts out ballot propositions, rephrases them so they look attractive, like Prop 19 was to help the wildfire victims. Instead, what it really turned into is a massive property tax increase, because when someone dies, their children can no longer inherit the property tax basis. This is going to affect multi-unit families, small businesses, where they own the land, the parents die, now all of a sudden the property taxes go through the roof. And he redrafts he creates what the ballots say, and he redrafts them after they're voted on. Nowhere in Prop 19 did it say, we're going to get rid of the ability to inherit your property tax basis. He lied.
You could say that was deceptive. He buried the lead there. So maybe, just maybe, Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association needs to sue Rob Bonta.
I think so. But, he does it on every single ballot proposition. He just rewrites it. Once it's voted on, rewrites it into what he wants it to be. And it's
there you go.
Dangerous.
Thanks for the call, Ray. Appreciate it. All right. Bonta, make your case to CNBC.
Was supported by recycling and that it was environmentally friendly, they would buy more, more, and more. And it would drive the profits of Exxon Mobil up, up, and up. And so that's the idea, but it's based on a lie. It's illegal. We've sued them in court, and we're here to hold them accountable.
It's a little... I've had a hard time getting my head around the details of this. I will tell you what Exxon Mobil, the statement that they put out in response. They say for decades, California officials have known the recycling system isn't effective. They failed to act, and now they seek to blame others.
In fact, for a long time, up until COVID, weren't we shipping a bunch of our recyclable material to China?
Instead of suing us, they could have worked with us to fix the problem and keep plastic out of landfills. The first step would be to acknowledge what their counterparts across the U.S. now know: advanced recycling works. To date, we've processed more than 60 million pounds of plastic waste into usable raw materials, keeping it out of landfills. We're bringing real solutions, recycling plastic waste that couldn't be recycled by traditional methods. So I honestly am trying to understand where the breakdown and what the problem is. You referenced the Department of Energy's numbers back from 2022 that said 5% of recycled stuff actually gets recycled. The rest of it winds up in other places. Exxon, I think its plant in Bayfront is 8%. So it's better than the average that you're seeing on some of these things. They say the rest of it, they break down into fuels and raw materials that can be used to remake plastic. So explain to me where the problem is, because I know that there have been lots of problems with recycling where we all separate our recycling and then it gets commingled and put back together in other places. What did Exxon do?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Exxon Mobil lied. Yeah, so I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Exxon Mobil lied. They lied to the world. They had a particular image makeover challenge with respect to the fact that their plastics that they wanted to sell more and more of were being found in waterways and on beaches, and the public was in an uproar, and so they needed to fix that. So they lied and said, it's okay, these items are being recycled, and they tried to place the blame on the consumer to put their items in the blue bin. It didn't matter if items
But it's
were put
not just
in
the
blue
consumer.
bin.
Even if you put it in the blue bin, there's a lot of problems that come with,
Yeah, isn't part of this how ineffective our current recycling programs are? Again, to the point where it's so expensive that people end up sending it to China, or at least that was the program before COVID. I mean, things like recycling glass and paper are pretty straightforward, but recycling plastic's a whole other deal. And you didn't know any better? We didn't know any better? We took their word for it? I don't know. Do you think he has a case? It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at randykabc@gmail.com. Tom in Laguna writes in and says, all plastics are not created equal. There are low-density polyethylene, high-density polyethylene, high- and low-density polyester, etc., etc. Some are clearly recyclable along with plastics, but not as mixed types and densities. They have to be separated. For example, the foam cups, which are polyester, are not recyclable. Blue bins tell you plainly not to put those cups in for recycling. Those cups have to be incinerated at high temperature like cremation. Well, Tom, my blue bin would tell me what can and can't be in there, except the trash guys throw the bin on the ground so hard that the lid broke off. True story. Hey, look at this. 790 KABC welcomes Danny Elfman to the Hollywood Bowl on November 2nd. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing. We'll hear what Rob Bonta has to say to CNBC next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to Rob Bonta on CNBC trying to explain his lawsuit against Exxon Mobil.
starting from that moment on, there are lots of breakdowns in the system. If you haven't washed the plastics, they can't be recycled. We've had garbage company CEOs who have come on and talked to us about that, trying to educate the public on those things. If it gets mixed back in by the people who don't want to deal with it from this level on and on. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of breakdowns. Is your point that plastic shouldn't be made
if
at all?
Exxon Mobil knew that, they shouldn't have lied about it and said it was recyclable and that the items were being recycled when they're not. If they knew that, they shouldn't have lied. That's the whole point.
But their plant is actually recycling.
No, it's not. And I'll talk about that in a second. Advanced recycling is neither advanced nor recycling. It's a new version of an old lie. Let me talk to you about their statement for a second. Okay. I don't hear in their statement a denial about perpetuating the myth of recycling. I don't hear that. I do hear a complete failure to take accountability in their statement and complete deflection to others. Let me be clear about this. This case is to hold Exxon Mobil accountable for their actions. They have hurt California and Californians, billions of dollars worth of damage to our environment, to our people. And their answer in their statement is to point the finger at California, the people that they hurt. Come on.
How he's so indignant. He's so mad.
And then advanced recycling. Let's talk about it. Their plant that you referenced, here's what that plant does. It doesn't recycle. It's an old technology. They're just heating up the plastic waste Most of it turns into transportation fuels that are burned once and emitted into the air to the harm of our environment. And
so they turned it into something else. That's kind of recycling.
That are burned once and emitted into the air to the harm of our environment and our planet. That is not plastic recycling.
I mean,
plastic recycling is turning plastic into more plastic.
That's not plastic going into landfills. If you're recycling it and reusing it in other ways, I mean, is your point that we shouldn't have plastics or we shouldn't have fuels?
My point is Exxon Mobil shouldn't lie.
He's not doing very well. Even if there is a case here, he is a terrible salesman at what the point is.
If they are telling you, look at their own statement.
Rob Bonta is not a ready for primetime player.
If they are telling you, look at their own statements. They say we can turn any piece of plastic into another useful piece of plastic that you can use.
But
they don't do that.
The Department of Energy has said the reason they think it's only 5% is because there's no demand for the recycled plastic. So
it's too expensive.
You can produce this if there's not demand for it and people who want to use it. What do you do with that? I mean,
if
again,
Exxon
is your
Mobil
point
knew
that
their items aren't being recycled? That's what they should have said. They said the opposite.
Well, they are being recycled.
They told people that they're not being recycled.
They're being recycled. If they're being burned down and put into fuels,
that's not recycled.
It's being recycled and not winding up in
their
the
advanced
lakes and rivers,
recycling
like you're
program
saying.
certifies circular, meaning a plastic bottle goes to the recycling system and comes back as a plastic bottle or another plastic product. They don't tell people that 92% of what they quote unquote recycle turns into jet fuel or transportation fuel.
Again, your
that
point
might
is
be
that
another
we shouldn't
use,
have
but
plastics.
it's not recycled.
Your point is we shouldn't have plastics. That people.
That's a good point. Even if there is a good argument here, Bonta's the wrong person to be making it.
My point is Exxon Mobil should not lie. They should not lie. And so people can make their own decisions. If people know that their items are going to go to landfill, the oceans, the rivers, into turtles' noses, and into the Great Patch, then they should know that.
If your point is that they're burning it down, it's not going into turtles' noses and into riverways. I understand we have a problem with too many plastics winding up in those places.
No.
But if you're saying that their recycling plant's not doing that. If their recycling plant is burning it down. They're not dumping any landfills. Is that what you're arguing?
Well, let's talk about it. Yeah. Here's the
Bonta not doing very well.
Well, let's talk.
And I don't know if we're going to have time to get here, but later on in the interview, because he flew to New York to do this interview, they asked him, so you took a jet to get here, right?
Well, let's talk about it. Yeah. Here's the capacity of their so-called advanced recycling. 1% of their own plastic production. The other 99% does not go through advanced recycling. It does go to landfills. It does go to incinerators.
If 99% of plastic does not get recycled, that should be the headline right there. You should have led with that. You're already confusing me, buddy.
It does go to incinerators. It does go into our environment. It's a very tiny amount of what they are actually doing, and they're not actually recycling. And they only turned 8% through advanced recycling into a recycled plastic. They need to add virgin plastic to even turn it into something useful again. It's a sham. Advanced recycling is not
So if
recycling.
it goes into jet fuel, that doesn't count for anything for you, or it does?
I mean, we need jet fuel
for you, or it does.
In these percentages that you're providing, I think that's the big issue that we're talking about here. So I recognize you're saying 1% this or 8% this.
Another plastic
so there's
bottle,
90% of something. The question is, are you saying the 90% is showing up in landfills, or are you saying that if it shows up in jet fuel or some other kind of recycled way that you're discounting that? And by the way, you could say, look, I just wish that they said publicly that it was going into jet fuel as opposed to something, the idea that it's recycled all into bottles. What do you see where I just think we just need to decipher what you're saying when you're saying they're lying. Do you know what I mean?
We are 7 minutes into this interview, and the hosts on CNBC have no idea what Rob Bonta's point is.
Saying they're lying. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. They're lying in different ways. They are saying that they're recycling, that essentially 100% of U.S. plastic can be recycled. That was the myth that they wanted to perpetuate.
But it can be.
They have perpetuated.
Yeah, but shouldn't we have known that? We're the entity that said, okay, let's go all in on recycling. Let's get those PSAs going. Let's fund Captain Planet.
It's not been. It can't be. It's not technical or financially feasible. Advanced recycling, their so-called, wonder recycling approach, only recycles 1% of the plastic products that
into
Exxon
other
Mobil
plastics,
creates.
And then you need virgin plastics. I understand that.
No, not that. Of all of the plastics that Exxon Mobil produces,
you're not doing yourself any favors, Bonta. Oh, my goodness. I'm so glad we finally had time to play that. If you'd like to email us, you can do so at randykabc@gmail.com. Glenn writes in and says, Bonta sounds like a scorned little girl. Well, they lied to me. Thank you all so much for listening to another always fun to do episode of the News Blitz with Randy Wang. We're here every single day from 5 to 6. If you ever miss an episode, go to KABC.com/newsblitz. Search on Apple Podcasts for the KABC News Blitz and give us a like, give us a follow, give us a review. Really appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 for another News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.